it was arguably Crusader Kings II that drew me into the simulation sandbox style of game. The first one to introduce me to the idea that the only story to be told was whatever story I wanted to tell. Certainly it took place in actual human history, but the minute you take control, everything is up to your whims and nothing more. I am obscenely excited to bring to you Crusader Kings III, Episode 1 of a brand new series here on the channel. I've actually had this game for a few weeks now, and I've put some time into it, to say the least, and I'm loving it. And if you know anything about Crusader Kings II, then know that everything that made Crusader Kings II so special, the dynasty building and the story, is all heavily amplified in Crusader Kings III. And if you don't know what Crusader Kings is, stick around. The idea behind Crusader Kings is quite simple. You take a singular member of a noble family somewhere in the world and do what you will with them, ideally expanding their dynasty, their legacy, and their power throughout the world, maybe starting as a count and ending your dynasty as an emperor. There is no campaign, no story. You get to choose who you play, and the story is all the events that unfold from there. And you, as a character, have a bunch of different traits and stats, all dictating who you are as a personality that we will talk and go over. But beyond just that, every single character in this game, the hundreds and hundreds of them, all have their own unique stats, personality traits, skills, and their own desires, ambitions, life goals. And you'll be vying with it every time. I may end up playing a game as Petty King Murshad, as you may play this very same character. But I guarantee you our stories immediately become very different, and how they end will be vastly different. What you see before you actually is the characters that I've been playing. This is kind of a cool feature, is that the main menu loads up the family that you're playing at the moment. And my off-screen game, I have been playing as the Petty King Murshad, and this is his son, actually. Because unlike Civ, you do not simply have one leader. They have lives, they age, and they die. And when they die, whoever was next in line for the throne takes over. And if you have siblings, you'll be damned sure they're gonna fight for a bit of power. Behind me, you can see my son. He hides because he's a hunchback, an unfortunate birth trait, but he is still heir to the throne and quite a talented boy. And my wife has been nothing but the rose that sits on my table, brightening my day and making everything so much easier. But we will not be playing as these characters. If you have any interest as to how they came into power, there's a little 4-episode miniseries that's going to go over on the Patreon exclusively. I've also been using it as a research excuse because I do want to do a Judge Mathas on this video. Instead, we're going to play someone much more weak. We're going to start a new game, and the very first thing you're greeted with when you end up starting a new game is a choice of characters and a choice of times. Up top, you can see there are 2 different years that you can start in, 867 and 1066. And then each of these 3 tabs represents a different part of the world in that time, with, you could consider, powerful leaders or interesting leaders. Ones that the game will then determine is an easy beginning or a difficult one. For instance, a good tutorial, and anybody who's playing Crusader Kings III for the very first time, I would suggest playing the Duke of Munster. It's a great easy start in Ireland, where you have a little bit of land and power under your control, and your goal to unite Ireland is a good beginner's challenge. You could also jump into somebody who's very difficult. King Navarra, for instance, out in Spain, one of the 3 brothers, is in a weak position and his brothers want him dead. Him, alone with no allies, likely will die. But if you take over, you could change the course of history. But if you don't want any of them, then you can choose to play as a different ruler, which is what we're going to do. We're going to load up the map in the year 867 as early as we can, and we're not going to play a European Christian nation with kings, queens, and dukes. Instead, we're going to go far north, where the Norse people reside and the Vikings rule. And we're going to play a chieftain, a small little chieftain in the name in the chiefdom of Vestfold. You can see Chieftain HARALDR, FAIRHAIR of Vestfold, is a young 17-year-old boy who is calm, brave, and ambitious. A, shall we say, lion. who rather not be disturbed, and it takes a lot to disturb him, but when you do rouse the beast, you've certainly pissed him off. A warrior like no other. His family is small. Nobody knows of him, and we are going to take control of him, way in the far north, with a simple goal: to unite the Scandinavian nations and perhaps create Sweden under our rulership. We may not do it in our lifetime, but our dynasty is destined for great things, and it all begins with Chieftain HARALDR FAIRHAIR of Vestfold. And that's who we'll be playing. Now before we do, I would like to zoom out just to give you an idea of how big this map is. It is enormous. All of these kingdoms and empires have different rulers of varying sizes within them, and all of them have different ambitions, as I said, all being simulated all at once. And there's an interesting tear over here. While this is kind of full, I do wonder if we'll see a further expansion of the map as we get DLCs in the future. We could also simply observe and have the game play itself. We're not going to do that, of course. Instead, we're going to continue, zoom right in, and our main focus is going to be right here. The rest of the world means nothing else. Now, the game is also highly customizable. You can jump into the game rules here and change all kinds of things. I'd love to get some achievements, so I'm going to be a little risky and enable an Iron Man mode. It means we can only save when we quit. Switching character or playing multiplayer is not allowed either, but it allows us to have all of our achievements. Everything else is going to be normal. Difficulty only goes to normal. It's a very easy, and normal. It has to be a normal for achievements. And everything else is going to be left by default. But to give you an idea, you can change everything for the reasons you go to war, to make them no cost to any of your resources, to just default. You can flip everything. Instead of there being kings and emperors, you can have queens and empresses. You can even equalize a playing field for all genders, because as we play, you'll realize all of this is accurate to the best of its ability to its time. But you can literally change everything about it and have the gameplay you want to play and tell the story you want to tell. Because as I said, this is a game of telling a story of a dynasty. So we're going to play in Iron Man mode on all the normal difficulties, and we are going to jump right on into Vestfold as Chieftain HARALDR FAIRHAIR of Vestfold. We will hit play. And we'll Youngling up top. And welcome to the game. It's on pause right now. It's in real time. It's not turn-based. And again, we're going to go over what you're looking at here. And if you're, again, if you're kind of a veteran to the game, hopefully there'll be a timestamp for you to jump to for the gameplay, or well, at the very least, jump to the next episode after we kind of have our setup. For everybody else who's looking at this and go, wow, this is a lot to look at, I don't know what I'm looking at, we're going to quickly go over everything, because I promise you it's not that complicated. We're going to start at the top. Like any game like this, any 4X game, these are your alerts. These are the things you have to take care of that are very important, including finding a wife and filling a council position. We'll talk all about that. Let's actually take a look at the map first. This is our land right here, and we actually have total control over the two counties over here. We have the control of the Chiefdom of Vestfold, and we have control over the Chiefdom of Vingulmörk. We wear Vestfold as our primary title, probably because Vingulmörk is a dumb name, and I agree with it. Each land has a bunch of stats it can give, each piece of land, depending. We'll go into more detail when combat kind of comes up, but for now, just know that there's like plains and forests and river crossings, and all of them give benefits and penalties to fighting. Up here is our resources, and you can think of them as experience and resource, almost like souls in Dark Souls. Like money, for instance, is pretty much straightforward. You can actually hover over and see how much we're making and where it's coming from. We're actually making $1.50 a month due to what lands we control. Prestige is our level of fame. Depending on how much prestige we have, it's basically how well the people around us actually know of us. And we're not super famous, but we have a chiefdom. And so that alone is worth being established over. Our name is at least known to our local neighbors. The more we do, the more prestige we will gain. And the more prestige we gain, the more famous we become. And we can then spend prestige as a resource for events and other situations that will come up, as well as a way to spend it for extra military and stuff. Again, a kind of a resource and an experience. Same thing with piety. Piety is how faithful you are to your faith. And we are not Catholic. We are Norse. And that alone is exciting because we have a bunch of different unique things that we can do with this religion that you can't do with Christianity. Over here is our renown. Now this is actually really, really low. This is the fame of our family, our dynasty. And we are extremely obscure. We're nobodies. Our family is not known throughout the land, and we want to change that. We want our family to become known. We want to watch the tale of HARALDR as he grows and dominates the world around him. And then right over here is our army, how big it is and how high quality they are. Right now with 3 silver dots, we're kind of a high quality. And then here's how many domain holdings we can have. We currently hold 2, the 2 pieces of land I told you about. All right, so that's that. That's your resources. Pretty straightforward. Down the side is the different little items that you can go through that kind of break your kingdom down. So we'll start with the top, with the realm. This is simply our domain. The 3 tabs are the domains that we have, the vassals under us, which we have none of because we control all of our land directly, and the succession, who's going to take over after we die. Right now it's our uncle because we don't have a child, which we need to change, but that's who would take over as our uncle. Next is our military. How many levies we can raise and how many champions or knights, if you're a Christian faith, that you have. Basically, these are unique characters that join you, that are in your court, and they become your knights, and they have a fighting skill known as prowess. And they have unique abilities that they can have on the battlefield. If they ever end up in duel events, you know, their prowess can determine how well they do. Basically, the higher the number, the better, unless they're trying to kill you, because then if they're better than you, they're likely going to kill you. Mercenaries, if we need people on the fly and we don't have a big enough army, we can spend money to hire some mercs. And holy orders, don't worry about this right now. We can also raid, which means we raise our armies and we march in nearby territories. I have the hiccups, Dean, hang on. Unique to our religion, we can also raise all of our armies as raiders. We're not going to go to war, but we can march them into neighboring territories and just raid their cities for gold and women and prisoners. And you have to apologize. I have to apologize, by the way, or you have to excuse me. I have a lot of hiccups going on right now and I can't stop it. Next up, our council. Now this is important. We have a bold lackey as our wife. So our council is made up of people within our court, all of them doing something very specific to their skill. And we're gonna go over that really quickly. And it's important because your council is gonna be filled with members of your court. And eventually, as your kingdom grows and you're gonna end up wanting more, as your kingdom grows and you have more and more land, your powerful vassals are going to start demanding positions on the council. They're powerful, they serve you, and of course they're going to want a seat at the table. For now, we're missing a couple of empty seats, and our ruler sits at, or rather our ruler's wife sits in the special spot for our spouse. Our spouse gives us general bonuses across the board if we choose for her to simply assist us. But we can never specialize on certain stats. These are all stats that our character has, of course, and that we'll go over here in a minute. We, of course, have our religious leader that sits at the top, our Godee in this particular religion, our chancellor, who deals with diplomatic relations and improves everybody's opinion of us, our steward, which is in charge of our money and tax collecting, our marshal, head cop, and our spy master, the one that's going to help us prevent plots coming against us to try and murder us from people who might want us dead, or assist us in murdering others. Right away, I really want to mess with our council. There's a lot wrong with it, but we'll worry about that later. Our court is who's actually within our court. We have a bunch of people that are currently guests, people who are sitting around that we might throw money at to have them stay because they have great stats. And then on top of the guests, everybody who's living here as well. We have a few religious folk here of Christian faith. I wonder why. But these are all guests. We can also check out our prisoners. We don't have any right now. Meanwhile, our intrigue. Now this is kind of a change from CK2 to CK3. If anybody is familiar with CK2, I think intrigue is going to be one of the areas that you're going to like the most because they've really improved it. Before, it was just kind of a plot to murder people and you kind of ignored it. Now, it's all wildly different. You have hostile schemes, the things to kidnap and murder and all that other good stuff. Personal schemes, trying to get other people to like you more, seduce people, and so on. And secrets. Everybody in this world has secrets. Say, for instance, I end up murdering one of the nearby rulers, and it was against my religion to murder. Well, I might get the secret, murdered whomever, X and Y. And if anybody ever discovers that, they can blackmail me. And then they can use that blackmail to get money out of me if they choose, or ask a favor of me without any penalty. And if I decline, they can then expose that secret to the world and people might hate me for it. Hell, it could start a war if the wrong people hear about it. Now, of course, this means I can do the same to others as well. Oh, hooks and secret are exactly that. Hooks are the resource, the thing you get when you discover a secret. Weak hooks are one use. Strong hooks are multi. Secrets known to me, hooks on you, and my secret. It's pretty straightforward. And then factions. These are groups of people within my kingdom that want to overthrow me or make me tax them less, or they want independence, etc., etc., etc. And then down here are decisions, things you can do, like restoring Danelaw, which is a giant kingdom that was fractured after many, many hundreds of years. Or I can go on a hunt or search for a physician. Many, many different things I can do in my court, and all of them have benefits that we will use at some point. And the last thing we want to look at is my actual character. Each character is pretty well statted out, kind of like an RPG. So what we have is our character stats here. These are his main 5 stats: diplomacy, martial, stewardship, intrigue, and learning. And they all do something different. Diplomacy is going to be how it helps how people see me. It's obviously my diplomatic skill. The number under people is how well they like me. It either goes to plus 100 or minus 100. Diplomacy always gives it a nice little boost. Martial skill, how good I am at leading armies, etc. Stewardship, how good I am at managing my money, as well as dictates how many pieces of land I can directly control. It's the reason I can only control in the top right 3 total. With the higher stewardship, that can go up before I need to get vassals. Then we got intrigue, how good I am at plotting and stopping plots. As you can see, he's not very good at it. And learning, which is how smart he is, and it will also affect how much of religion I gain. And then my prowess stat, which shows I'm actually very good at one-on-one combat. So what I see looking at Chieftain HARALDR FAIRHAIR here is that he is just a kind of calm, smart, brave, or should I say calm, ambitious, I wouldn't call him foolhardy, almost like a golden heart. He's brave and he's ambitious, but he's calm. He's hard to anger. He's a good soldier. He's a warrior leader. He's who these people need in this time, because we're going to have to take land by force. Nobody here is going to help us or give their land to us or operate diplomatically. I'm surrounded by other chieftains and other tribes that only understand force. So that's our stats. It kind of shows you what we're good at. Up here are our personality traits, things that happen to us as we're getting raised or growing up. We're calm, so our diplomacy and intrigue go up. We take less stress, which can be bad for our mental health. And we are not great at staying, shall we say, scary. Dread is the stat that indicates how scared people are of us. If we start torturing prisoners, sacrificing them, etc., etc., we gain dread and people become scared of us, but it doesn't last very long because we're just a calm character. We're also brave. We get a huge boost to martial and prowess. We are pretty handsome because of it. Our vassals like us a little bit more because of it. We have a higher chance of dying in battle because we always jump in there, and then we don't like craven people. We also gain a little piety because of virtuous. And then finally, we're ambitious, which is the reason I think this character wants to create as big of a kingdom as he can under his rule. He's also a skilled tactician. These are things that he learned as he was growing up. He's a reaver, which means he raids better. He's already quick. He's a pretty smart guy, and he's a decent hunter. That's great. Honestly, he's great. I love this character, and his story is going to be so fun to tell. We have a wife already. We'll take a look at her in a minute. But we can also take concubines. Because of our religion, we can take concubines. So now that you know what this is all looks like and what this is all about, and you can just kind of stuff under him, you can just see things we've already looked at on the right-hand side. A lot of the UI is just us able to access the same information in many different ways. I'm going to put this down now. There's 3 more tabs down here we want to look at. None of them matter too much right now, but they are important. First is the house. This is our dynasty. This is the family. If we look at a dynasty tree, we can see where we come from, who our family was. Up here, hello? I can't move. What I'm going to do actually, you know what, screw it. We can actually take a look at our family right here. So our father, we can go back to, Halfdan Gerlson Ingling. That was who he was prior to us. He wasn't a chieftain, it looks like. How did he die? Died of unknown causes on the 1st of January, 866. So we don't know how he died. And then our mother is actually still alive. She's a member of our family. She's forgiving, arrogant, and gluttonous, and an adequate bargainer. Good to know, I guess, mother. We might marry her off for an alliance at some point. And then it goes up to our grandparents, and then after that, it doesn't look like... Wow, we actually can go to like great-great-great-great-grandfather before we lose track of our bloodline here. Halfdan Ingling, he was the beginning of it all, the beginning of this family. We do not know how he died in 755. I love that you can go that far back. So that's how our dynasty came to be. This is our dynasty here, and as we grow our dynasty points, our renown, we can actually spend our renown on buffs. Well, getting better prowess across our family or better popular opinion of us. And we can just, it costs a lot, but it's forever across our dynasty for all time. The second one is our religion. So this dictates what's okay and what's not. Actually, you can see our map changes to a religious mode, our Catholic up here. Astaru is where we are. Sloviaskin, Vidlist. That's what these little tabs in the bottom right are as well, all different map modes. But here we can see what's acceptable in our religion. Our tenets are ancestor worship, which means we gain prestige for having a baby. We gain prestige when we get married. Maximum long reign, if we rule a long time, we gain a high opinion bonus. That kind of thing. And a close family gets a huge opinion bonus because of the religion we are. We can also sacrifice humans and we'll gain piety for it. Grants the raid for captives because it's Belli. We can literally go to war for somebody simply to capture people so we can sacrifice them. And warmonger, at peace opinion instead of offensive war opinion. Rulers have conquest. Basically, because of this religion, we can go to war for any reason. Where if we were a Christian, we would need to come up with a good reason to go to war, whether we have a claim on it by law, etc., etc. The sins of this particular religion are being deceitful, craven, and forgiving. And the virtues are wrathful, brave, and vengeful. And we are brave, which means we're going to get a nice little bonus for being brave. The main doctrines are we're a male-dominated religion. Pluralist, adherents of other faiths will have an opinion penalty of 50%. County conversion speed takes a little bit longer. Reduced danger from heresies when at low fervor. Just some benefits out of it. And theocratic, meaning all religious holdings are ruled by our religious leader and they kind of rule it like they're one of our vassals. Divorce is allowed. Cousin marriage is allowed. Bastardry legitimization is allowed. And marriage types are consorts and concubines. We can have up to 3 concubines. Homosexuality is illegal. Deviancy is illegal. Female-male adultery is illegal. Kinslaying close kin is illegal. And witchcraft is illegal. And then how the clergy acts. So that's how the faith works. And then finally, our head. But this doesn't actually matter because we are not the cultural head. But basically, whoever is the cultural head can dictate what the culture is fascinated with, eventually unlocking benefits. And they're currently fascinated with city planning. We want to be the cultural head. All right, with that all out of the way, we now have a little bit more setting up to do. We have to pick a class, aka a lifestyle for our character. He's only 17. So we'll go ahead and click this. And basically each one of these gives benefits to each one's thing. So we're just obviously gonna pick martial because we were clearly raised with a martial background. So because of that, we get a 30% experience bonus in this lifestyle. Then we have to pick a focus. Each one has different benefits. I'm gonna take the very top one where we just get a straight +3 martial and we gain 35 martial experience a month. Though control growth and dread. Actually, let's get authority focus. We're gonna be beating down a lot of enemies and taking their land forcefully. We're gonna want them to be under our heel. So control, which is keeping the towns under our control after we take them. So we take money from them, and dread, which is how much people fear us. That's our focus. So we're gonna be an authority-focused warrior who's calm, but knows how to raise a blade if needed. Now, let's take a look at our spouse. Our spouse is a conceited scribe, arrogant, gregarious, and generous, and she's okay in the stats. I might want to divorce her. I think I'm gonna. It costs us 100 of our piety, but let's see who else we've got. Gidya Ilva of Telemark, a lowborn who's giant and also quick. Giant's kind of cool. You get a minor penalty, but you get vassal opinion, tribal ruler opinion, and other giant characters like you, and it's congenital, means it can be handed down just like quick can, through genetics. We will likely take a prestige hit. Yep, minus 100 prestige, but she's a great little wife. I'm gonna take her. She's a giant and I love her. So we will marry her. We'll unpause here. And then what we'll do is go into our council and we need to fill our positions. We need a new steward. We don't have any good stewards. Oh God. We want to recruit you to court, sir. You're 8 gold. He's a guest in our court and he is a dishonorable adventurer, meaning he's brave, gluttonous, and deceitful. But he's a flexible leader and he's a good tactician. I think we want him as our marshal. So yeah, I'm gonna pay 8 gold and say, hey man, join us please. And I also need a steward. Yeah, Olgoff, our uncle, I'm gonna recruit him as well. 3 gold. so I can have these people in court. Assign our uncle, and then assign our marshal, and now we have a full council. Our spy master worries me a little bit, but we don't have much of a good choice. Actually, we could recruit one more to court for these craven, callous, and trusting. Him being trusting is good because I think he'll like us. He's terrified of us. $3 gold. I'm gonna put him there. He's better. He's 93. He likes us a lot. For a lot of reasons. Trusting, we put him on a council. We're in the same family. We're in the same dynasty, huh? Couldn't know he's family in some way. He's brave and grateful. So I'm happy. That's our court. This is gonna be our council. This is gonna be who helps us lead our small little lands until we expand. I don't want to fabricate a claim right now. I know we have too few champions. We need more. In order to get more champions, what we're gonna have to do is go into our decisions and put out a heraldry. We need people in our court. So we have to spend 150 prestige, but 3 able-bodied men with 12 prowess or more will show up over time. So we're sending people out and be like, oh, hey, hear ye, hear ye. Chieftain FAIRHAIR of Vestfold is looking for the most able-bodied warriors. Enter his court and plea your patronage to him. Perhaps he will bestow you the gift of champion. And that'd be great because we need some more. Anyway, our ex-wife is going to become our concubine now. We took her as our woman. We're going to bang her on the side. It's part of our religion and we want to do that. Until death do us part. Greeting, Chieftain HARALDR of Vestfold. I accept your marriage proposal. You will be joining my acquaintance, Ilva, your wife, in holy matrimony. So, we are now married, my dear old wife. And the very first thing I would like to do, you can right-click on people to see what you can do with them and act on. We're gonna go ahead and immediately try and seduce her. We want her to love us. Not only will it increase her opinion of us by a lot, obviously, but on top of that, it will also give us unique events. And I would love for our first character, who's so trusting and brave and ambitious. He seems like he would fall truly madly in love with his wife, whomever she is. So we're gonna start the scheme, the personal scheme, to seduce her. We're just going to, not seduce her, I'm sorry. I don't want to seduce her. I want to romance her. 100% chance to romance her. She already loves us. Her stats are pretty damn good. And now on our council, we can have her help us out. I don't know if I want anything specific right now, so her giving a general bonus, a nice general bonus at that, is fine. Heir unmarried, I don't care. Our uncle is not going to be taking over for us. And we can declare wars on everybody nearby. And we might even do so. Telemark being the first place we'd want a war. We could right-click and declare war, and there's a bunch of different reasons we could do it. We could raid them for captives so we can sacrifice to the gods. But we only really want his county. He does not have a lot of men. His army is supremely inferior to ours, and he has no allies. We just gained a wife, one that we truly do love, or at least we want to. What better way to impress her than to show her how brave I am and how capable of a leader I am? And so, spending a little of our piety and setting our eyes on the chieftain Roald of Telemark, we tell him that land belongs to us now. And if he doesn't agree, we'll meet him in the fields of battle. Our first act as king and the first page to the story of our dear chieftain HARALDR begins, declaring war on Telemark. We will raise our armies, unpause the game as they gather, and immediately march to the capital. The time has come to let my feelings towards Chiefess Ilva be known. I want her to remember this day for the rest of her life. And I will impress her, as I should, by winning a sparring match. I recruit one of my most senior soldiers and practice with him for 3 days straight. Once he deems me ready, we head together to the main courtyard. As we begin to spar, a crowd gathers, and their cheers soon draw none other than the saucy Chiefess Ilva. The soldiers fight valiantly, and I disarm him with a final flawless thrust. I kneel before Ilva and declare my noble intentions. I dedicate this victory to you, Chiefess Ilva. Bringing you honor is my only desire. My treasure is speechless but clearly flattered. Why else would she be smiling thusly? And our scheme continues as we then march to war. We'll be there in a few days. He's going to actually retreat his army. So the plan, as you can see, this is kind of how combat works. You move pieces on a board, essentially. And we're going to be moving to his city, and the plan is to siege it. As soon as we siege this capital, he'll have no land under his control, and we'll be able to enforce our demands on him. Ooh, he's moving again, going into the forest now, into the neighboring town. I don't think we'll be able to get there before... We might be able to catch him before he leaves, so we might actually get a little bit of a fight here. The tribes of Telemark, yeah. Nope, he moved just in time. So, we sit in front of the city now, the siege of Telemark, and as he moves his armies around, we are going to be sitting here for about 6 months. We get one a day out of 200, which will be 6 months of our life in game time. There's 250 people in his city with 769 of ours on the outside. So as long as things go normal, it will be about 6 months. However, down here, things will be happening within Telemark. Starvations, perhaps it's small attacks, that could, if the die rolled appropriately, speed this along. Every 20 days an event could happen. And now we just got one of the champions actually arose. As we leave, ooh, he is not good at anything, but he is an incredibly good knight with a 16 prowess. I think we recruit him simply because he's a good fighter. Champion has arrived. So he's actually at my court as a guest. I just want to allow him to stay if possible. Oh, I need 4 gold? I can't afford it. Well, we're going to siege for now then. I didn't realize we were so low on money. I forgot that we had very little cash on us. We're going to go ahead and speed this up to ×5 and let these months hopefully go by quickly. We got desertion. Their soldiers are literally deserting en masse, which is speeding up the siege. And all while the siege, our soldiers are kind of hanging out in the camp. After my army sets up, I hear a commotion coming from the champion's lodgings. Investigating the disturbance, I find Guttorm, our uncle and chancellor, and Olafur, another uncle of ours and our steward, in the middle of a heated argument with several onlookers, edging them on. So we have 3 choices here. We can deliver a speech, and it's basically a 50-50 chance of them calming down and them actually liking us more, and then or us losing prestige and actually us jumping into the fight. We could have them whipped, which would gain us dread and a little experience in our martial style, but because we're calm, this goes against our personality, so it generates stress. And every time we generate stress, it brings us closer to a mental break, and if we have a mental break, bad things could happen. Or we could ignore it and simply spend 35 prestige. I think we have to deliver a speech. We are brave and ambitious, and we think we're true rulers, and we're young, so we're a little brash about this stuff. Maybe they'll listen. I get up and deliver a speech about how we are all fighting for the chiefdom of Vestfold and how we must stand united for our foes. For if we don't, there are many outsiders who would take advantage of our internal squabbles to seize our lands and impose their rules on us. Looking abashed, Guttorm and Olafur apologize, get ready to settle in for the night. So we actually gained the prestige, experience, and they all liked us a bunch more. Now we'll continue the siege. They're trying to siege our capital, but we're going to siege them first. We actually took the foe captive in the siege of Telemark. So we actually, because of that, we won the war. We can enforce our demands. However, I might just kill him. So we have a bold lackey, chiefess is Telemark. We've got them both. I think what we do is execute, though I don't torture. We could torture him and build dread. It spends anything, but I think I want to execute him. We gain dread, yeah, we gain piety. And he'll hate us. All close members of his family will hate us, but we gain piety, so we're gonna execute him and execute his wife. Is killed by you. And then his son will hate us, but that's okay. We murder his parents to send a message. And then we take that piety, and then what we do is we enforce their rule on their young lad, on the young boy. So he has no chance of rising before us. We gain fame, we gain prestige, and they sit before FAIRHAIR here, his beautiful face gazing upon them. And we take it. To the cocky chieftain HARALDR. May your years be short and miserable. You are a much greater foe than I imagined. In order to put an end to this bloodshed, I will comply with your demands. So be it. And just like that, the war comes to an end. We disband our army. We have all that money and our own territory grows. He's in our court somewhere, but we took the land directly from him. So he's not going to be having any power, nor is he really going to demand much. Do we have anybody that would be a better religious head? No. We do have somebody who would be a better chancellor. And he would be a much better steward. Not a much better, but a better steward. So yeah, he'll be our tax collector now, and we'll have somebody who's slightly better in our chancellor position. All family. Meanwhile, our wife loves us, and we can still declare wars. Oh, we can create a duchy now. Well, we don't have the money for it quite yet. When we create a duchy, it'll certainly spread our fame. And I think that's where we leave the first episode of our dear chieftain HARALDR. His story only just beginning, finding a wife that's suitable, and turning his old ex-wife into a useful concubine, the baby maker that she'll be. Vestfold's power grows, and the kingdom of Daneland will be ours before you know it.
As they say in primary school, be kind, don't be a cunt. Give or take, that's what they usually say. Just be sure to do what you wanna do.